My name's Ethan. This happened during my childhood, one fall weekend, when my whole family went up north. It wasn't just my parents, my uncle and aunt came too, along with their kids and our grandfather. Grandpa owned this quiet patch of land tucked deep in the woods, with a small, cozy cottage at the center. He had bought the place years ago not to build or hunt, but just to get away. He always said he loved animals more than people. He never hunted, not even fished much. Just liked to sit near the water with a book in his hand. Mornings at the cabin were always peaceful. I still remember waking up to the smell of pine trees and hearing birds outside the window. We spent those weekends playing outside, collecting weird, shaped stones, roasting hot dogs in the fire pit, and getting muddy near the stream that ran behind the trees. That place felt like its own world, safe. But one night, something happened that I've never forgotten. That Saturday afternoon, after lunch, we started talking about sleeping outside. Just me, my cousin Daniel, and the girls. We were all around 13 or 14 at the time. At first, the adults said no, until we pointed out we wouldn't go far. Just a few meters into the woods, still on the property. Eventually they caved. So that night, the four of us went. Grandpa helped us set up a big tent, close enough to the house, but far enough to feel like real camping. He even handed us a small flashlight and said, jokingly, "Don't go chasing ghosts." We brought snacks, a deck of cards, and one of those old handheld gaming consoles that barely held a battery. We set up our sleeping bags in a circle, zipped the tent up, and told ourselves this was going to be the coolest night of the trip. It felt exciting, like we were finally being trusted by grown-ups. And for a while, it was. We played silly games, told embarrassing stories, and kept daring each other to go outside and check for bears. The woods outside were still. The air smelled like pine and cold dirt. Then, sometime around 10, we heard something. It was loud, a sharp, sudden crack, like a giant branch snapping. We all went silent. Lily's hand tightened around mine. "Probably a tree falling," Daniel said, trying to sound casual. "Or maybe a deer stepped on something." No one answered. We just stared at the tent walls, eyes wide, watching the shadows stretch and shift. At one point, I thought I saw a shape move across the nylon. Just a flicker, but maybe it was my mind playing tricks. And then, about 15 minutes later, a scream. Far off, it sounded like a girl. We froze. Ava whispered, "Was that someone?" "No," I said quickly, trying to stay calm. "Could have been a fox. Sometimes they sound like that." I don't think I believed it myself. We turned off the flashlight and sat still, listening, trying not to breathe too loud. That silence was worse than the scream. The flashlight was off. The tent felt darker than before. I could hear Ava's breathing, shaky and quick. Daniel kept whispering, "It's nothing. It's nothing," like he was trying to convince himself. I had my phone in my hand, but didn't want to risk the screen lighting up. No one moved. And then it happened again. Another scream, but this time, closer, much closer. It sounded like it came from the woods, maybe 50 feet from our tent, and it wasn't a fox. Not this time. Ava whispered, "That's not an animal." Lily started crying quietly. Ava put her hand over her mouth. Finally, I leaned in and said, "Let's go." We grabbed our phones and flashlight. I unzipped the tent and yelled, "Run!" We sprinted through the woods, flashlights bouncing. Didn't look back and didn't see anything on the way. Just empty woods and cold air. It was the fastest I'd ever run, until the porch light of Grandpa's cottage came into view, and we screamed. The adults came rushing out of the cottage. Grandpa was already grabbing his coat. My dad and uncle were shouting, "What happened?" We were all talking over each other, saying things like a giant branch snapping, screaming, and something was out there. No one laughed. No one brushed it off. Grandpa didn't say a word. He just went back inside, grabbed his old hunting rifle, and told the others, "Stay with the kids." My dad followed him into the woods. We stood on the porch with our moms and uncle, wrapped in blankets, shaking, waiting. 15 minutes passed, then 30. Finally, we saw flashlights coming back through the trees. They hadn't found anything. No person, no animal, no footprints. They didn't say much, just told us, no more camping. We didn't sleep much. The four of us stayed in the living room with all the lights on. Even the adults looked uneasy.
And you never found out what it was?
Never. We went home the next day. I still wonder what would have happened if we hadn't walked away when we did.
That's the thing about the woods. You never really know who's watching from the dark.
A friend of mine invited me on a trip, a weekend camping trip with friends, deep in the mountains. It was early autumn, and the lake was beautiful. Calm, still, surrounded by trees so dense, it felt like time had stopped. There were four of us: me, Owen, Leo, and Elijah. We arrived mid-afternoon, pitched our tents near the shore, made a fire, and spent most of the first day laughing, hiking, swimming, just enjoying ourselves. That first night, after dinner and some lazy stories by the fire, we all headed to our tents. But I couldn't sleep. It wasn't the cold or the forest sounds. It was a weird feeling. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like I had to open them again. Eventually, I gave up and stepped out of my tent. The campfire had burned down to embers, and the night was dead quiet. I walked toward the lake to clear my head. I just needed some air, maybe even a moment alone with the stars. The surface looked like glass. I stood there for a while, just listening. Just silence. And that's when I saw it.
Saw what?
Out near the center of the lake, barely visible in the moonlight, was a figure, standing waist deep in the water. It was upright, motionless, almost blending into the water. At first, I thought it was a log or a trick of the light. But no, it was Leo. He was exactly the kind of guy who'd pull a dumb prank to scare someone. I whispered his name. No answer. I took a cautious step toward the shoreline, and that's when the figure slowly sank beneath the surface. No splash, no ripple. I backed away, slow and careful, and turned around. But Leo was suddenly standing behind me. I jumped, nearly screamed. He asked what I was doing. I told him there was someone in the lake. He looked, nothing. Perfectly calm water. He said maybe I was overtired. Maybe I imagined it. But I hadn't. The next morning, Mason looked uneasy. Then he told us something weird. He said his cousin had camped near the same lake a few years back. They'd packed up early after one night because someone had banged hard on their tent in the middle of the night, loud enough to wake everyone in a second. But when they opened it, no one was there. We brushed it off as a coincidence. Bad timing. Creepy but explainable. I never mentioned what I saw the night before. I didn't want to ruin the weekend or sound crazy. That night, we stayed up later, laughed louder, trying not to feed the fear. Around midnight, we finally crashed. But this time, something changed. I woke up to whispering. Very close. At first, I thought it was one of the guys talking in their sleep. But when I peeked out, All their tents were zipped shut, and the whispering was coming from the lake. I don't know how to explain it. It was like hearing a voice underwater. Garbled, like something was trying to speak but couldn't. I crawled out of my tent and crept toward the shore. The moon was high, throwing silver light across the surface of the lake. The water was still. Then, I saw something. Not a person. Just movement. Barely visible at the edge of the lake, right where the trees started. A dark shape. Upright. Still. At first, I thought it was a tree stump. But then it shifted. Just slightly. Like it turned. I froze. My legs wanted to run, but I didn't want to draw attention. I slowly stepped backward, then turned and walked. Fast. Back to the tent. The rest of the night passed in silence. When the sun finally came up, I stepped outside and noticed something off. Everyone looked pale. Tired. Like none of us had really slept. Leo said he had a pounding headache. Owen looked sick. Elijah kept rubbing his arms, saying the air felt wrong. I told everyone we had to leave. And for once, no one argued. It was like we'd all silently come to the same conclusion. Whatever this place was, we weren't meant to be here. We packed up in less than 20 minutes. Didn't finish breakfast. Didn't take pictures. Didn't say goodbye. Just walked back through the woods, heads down, saying nothing. And when we reached the car, no one looked back. It's been a year. We still don't know what was out there, what I saw in that lake. I don't know what it wanted. But I've never gone back. And I never will. We'd planned this trip for months. Just us, somewhere cold, quiet, remote. A place where cell signals vanished and all you could hear was the wind in the pines. Marie, my wife, found it. Winter camp. A few numbered plots, a weathered sign, rusted fire rings, perfect. We arrived at sundown, set up our tent near the tree line, overlooking a frozen lake, still, silent, untouched. That night, we huddled by a small fire, sharing tea under a blanket. The air bit, but the moment glowed. She smiled. It feels like we're the last people on Earth. I pulled her close. I wouldn't mind if we were. Midnight brought the storm. First, whispers through the trees. By 2 a.m., fists of snow slammed our tent. The nylon groaned. I stumbled outside to secure the lines, Marie right behind me. Her hands were raw, but she didn't flinch. Then, a shattering gust. I slipped, fell. The rope tore from my grip. Our tent wrenched free, vanishing downhill into the dark. Everything gone. I shouted, then froze. Marie wasn't beside me. Mary. The wind swallowed my voice. Snow blinded me. I scrambled to where the tent had been. I lurched into the white void, screaming her name. A dark shape ahead, 20 feet down the slope. Her, half buried in snow. Blood streaked her forehead, coat torn, one boot missing. I fell, she whispered, eyes fluttering. I tried to lift her. Searing pain shot through my ankle, twisted. Her leg bent unnaturally, shoulder dislocated. Bad, all bad. The storm eased just enough to spot our backpack nearby. I crawled, dragging my leg. Inside a blanket, dead radio O, and one oxygen canister. I pressed it to her lips. She breathed shallowly. I took a pull, head swimming. Alive. But no shelter. No food. No way back. That night felt eternal. I held her, wrapped in blankets, my jacket over her. She shivered violently. Just till morning, I whispered. Morning came. Her leg, swollen, purple. She couldn't stand. My ankle throbbed. Go without me, she murmured. Never. We talked of summer. Northern lights. Songs she loved. Someone must have noticed. We were 5 hours late. By dawn, her breathing thinned. Lips blue. She looked at me. A ghost of a smile. I wanted to live with you, I clutched her. "We will just hold on, Marie." Her breath slowed. I held her, cradled her, begged her eyes to open. They didn't. I wrapped her in the blanket, tucked it tight, still trying to warm her, zipped her torn coat. My hands shook, not from cold, from leaving her. "I'll come back." Every step tore at my ankle. I slid down ice, gripped trees, fell, rose. Hours passed. Just one more step. Orange jackets, voices. "You're safe now," a rescuer said, catching me. Safe. Without her. They'd been searching since last night. Tracked our route. "Marie's up there," I rasped. "Bring her home. Promise me." That evening, they carried her down. Gentle. Quiet. I couldn't look. She'd laughed by the lake, held my hand, made plans. Now she was no longer with me. People call us brave, strong. It means nothing when you walk off the mountain alone. Months later, I still see her in the snow. Those last eyes. That whisper. Sometimes the mountain gives. Sometimes it just takes.